that you cannot share from an empty cup, and everything starts from you, because if you are empty, what more can you share to other people, or what more can you give to other people? And to your point, Dina, I came through a point where I also felt like I'm helping too many people, but on my end, I had no one to actually reach out to, because I kept taking care, let's say, of others' needs over mine. And I have to be cognizant of the fact that you cannot solve everyone's problem. All right. It is the individual's motivation to fix themselves, to fix their issues. You can only do as much. So for leaders, I think that it's important for them to create boundaries. It's not giving too much. It's not giving 100%. It's leaving at least 15% for you. It's giving only 85% for others, because you also have to also take care of your own needs, your family, your relationships, your time. And moreover than that, some people will always ask and ask. You've already given your right hand, they want your left hand. And so it's important that you also have your limitations, your boundaries, and you have to be selfish. You have to ensure that you comes first over other people.
Welcome to The Leader's Edge, the talk show that has captured the imagination of global viewers. And today, it is truly a great honor and pleasure for me to introduce somebody I have known long ago in Toastmasters International, and by chance, we met again in LinkedIn. I'm talking about one of the top influencers of LinkedIn, and I'm sure elsewhere. This is Miss Fabi Cariño. And Fabi is the Country Human Resources Director of MedRisk, and also adjunct faculty instructor of the Asian Institute of Management. I am sure that Fabi has a lot more to say about herself, so I'll give her the virtual stage now before she starts to talk about her topic, wellness leadership. So, Fabi,
Hi everyone, my name is Fabi. I always introduce myself as Fabi, short for fabulous. And I'm really happy to be part of this interview. And I'm really happy to also share really my expertise in terms of mental health, leadership, and culture. And I think today, I rather for today, I would love to share all the things that would matter to everyone who thinks that this could be beneficial, whether for their professional or their personal life.
oh, thank you, Fabi. That, by the way, the topic that we have assigned to you has captured the imagination of many people. Well, because what we have been through, and practically everywhere I go, there is some kind of toxicity in the workspace. Can't be helped, I guess, after effects of everything that we have gone through. So, this is something of interest not only to me, but to our viewers. Wellness leadership, that's a tall order, really. Um, Fabi, how did you get to be what we call really focused on this particular subject matter, this wellness leadership?
Well, thank you, Dina. I got into wellness leadership when I became head of an advertising company, relatively around 6 years ago. And probably, as everybody would know, it is cutthroat when you're in the advertising agency. It's one of the most notorious when it comes to having issues when it comes to work-life balance because of of the nature of the business. And likewise, I would say that when you are part of the advertising agency, you are actually in an industry of rejection because you need to compete with other advertising agencies to get a client. Maybe you could probably have to talk to around 50 clients, and maybe there would be lucky if you could get one client for that matter. So when I joined this advertising company, I actually noticed how toxic really it was because of the competitiveness even within the organization. And being a psychology major in my college years, I took up clinical psychology, major in counseling, and then I took also a master's in organization development. I really felt that as an HR practitioner and professional, we should not only focus on the results and money and the revenue of the business. I'm saying it's an important aspect, but I think we need to focus more on the more important resource of the organization, which is people. And that's the reason why I felt that there was a need to create programs that would enable people to help themselves, because no one can help you except yourself, Dina. It's not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or an HR or your leader. It's really yourself. And I started to create a program. I actually worked with someone. He's no longer in the company, but he worked with me to come up with a tagline called "Mind Your Mind" too. No, so it became more a marketing way for me to entice people to actually come to my program, learn something about yourself, and learn something on how you can manage your your mental well-being and wellness. Okay, because wellness is a very vast environment. It's not only about mental, Dina. And that's how I started it. I started it in my own organization. However, after I left that organization during the pandemic, I saw the impact of the pandemic for organizations, business owners, and even employees. So I started my crusade to actually spread the good word about wellness. So I was even talking to many organizations here in Southeast Asia and gave them some tips on how they could create a wellness program for their organization. And the second part here is that leaders should know how to be able to handle mental well-being for their own organizations. So that's how I started, and that's how I'm continuously doing, Dina. I'm still very active when it comes to mental well-being, wellness programs, and I continue to learn and I continue to share this passion and crusade of mine, not only in the Philippines but globally.
Fabi, that's really interesting to me. And um, mind you, what I know is that it's not just mental, it's also physical and then spiritual. And wow, I mean, how do you do it in such a way that is practically it fits a particular person in an organization with several people? how how are we as leaders to know which type of wellness this particular person needs? Is it mental, physical, or spiritual? How can you discern that?
That's a good question, Dina. First and foremost, in every organization, they have different different issues, concerns, and challenges. But I would like to say there are similarities as well. So I would say if we want to actually take care of our company, first step here is an assessment. You have to ensure, just like a doctor, you cannot just go for a solution directly, but rather you have to understand and make an environmental analysis as to what are the symptoms that the company is experiencing. For example, an experience that I would likely look into as a symptom of an issue um, would be people leaving or attrition of the organization. When once that you see that the attrition of the organization is more than actually 15% and above, then you would actually understand that there are certain things that you need to look into. If it comes to a point that you even have an attrition of 50 or 60%, then all the more it's a cause of alarm, Dina, because that's not normal. So imagine if you will be hiring 100 people, 50% or 60 would leave in the end. So that's a lot of effort that comes into play when every time you hire people. You hire them, not only do you hire them, but you have to train them. Not only do you train them, you have to also, of course, pay them. You have to reward them. But in the end, if they leave, all of these investments that we put into will just become futile. So first step first is that make a clear diagnosis. And how do you do that? You make a diagnosis by actually creating even simple tools. Not all companies can afford to be able to assess their organizations. And of course, me also being frugal with my organization, I want to make sure that we're able to identify what are those problem areas. So what I did was create just a survey to understand where they are right now, because I believe that if you have data, you would be able to change things. If you don't have data and facts, it will only be based on perception, Dina. And in the end, it's just an impression. And whatever we think would be good or better would be different from other people. So there has to be a baseline when it comes to your data. And just identifying, for example, mental health. How is your mental well being today? Asking an individual that from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, 1 meaning they are not okay, 10 that they feel excellent, you know. When you have this kind of data collectively on the mental well-being spectrum, you would know that this department or this particular individual or the whole organization is falling in a particular rating that would need some interventions on. And just to share with you, Dina, in my experience, there will be a lot of differences per department. And I would always assume before that the creative group will be more happier because they have more creative minds and all that. But it came to me as a surprise because based on the data I found out, they're the ones who had more help needed. Yeah, so that's an example that we did. It's really identifying it through questionnaires, through survey. And another thing that I would be proud of is I use AI technology. Using AI technology, reaching out every day to people. Let's say for this month, you wanna find out the wellness in terms of their mental well-being, then every day you have to have collective data in terms of identifying how a team is over a month or two to really see the trend, because it's not enough to see a 1 day or a 1 week, because people could change, people can get better or worse for that matter. So it needs to be at least a timetable of like 1 month, 2 months. So I really encourage people that if you're in HR, if you're a leader, you can even do this to your team members. And you can even use emoticons or smiley faces, just one, two, three, how you are, like, not good, very good, excellent, things like that. And that to me is our data. Then you can also ask about their financial well-being because based on my experience, there's such a huge correlation, Dina, between finances and mental well-being. When people do not feel secure about their job, when you are the breadwinner of the family, all you think about is the future and you get anxiety, you get worried as to how you will be able to feed your family. So all of these things come together. That's why I would say that wellness has to be holistic. Money is not the only thing you should be measuring. It's also the impact, let's say, for example, of your relationships with your coworkers, with your family. So these are also other areas which needs to be measured so that if you are not on the ideal goal, you know for a fact that there's an area for improvement and you need to strategize what to do to get towards that goal that you want to reach.
Fabi, in your experience, when you give this, rather, when you give attention and priorities to particular persons because they're having issues, for example, how do they respond? Is it one of gratefulness? Is it one of acceptance? Or sometimes, because of course people are different. Some people may not want to be paid attention to. I mean, oh no, no, forget it, or something like that. In general, is it more acceptance and gratefulness?
Actually, I'd like to tell you that our culture, we are stigmatizing wellness, that if you're not okay in any of those aspects, people are afraid to be stigmatized and be judged. Because if you ask them, how is your, let's say, mental well-being, or how good is your financial well-being, people will just say, okay, okay lang. So things like that. So sometimes you have to dig deeper because in general, I'd like to tell you, people are afraid to be judged.
Yeah.
They always want to make sure that they are appearing okay, but actually they're actually suffering inside. And I've seen this, especially for males, because of our society expecting males to be macho, being able to have that capacity to be strong and all that. So when you ask them how they are, they would rather not say anything and they would just give a fine answer, but in reality, they're going through something. So that's why it's important to have trust between, let's say, the leader and their team members, or HR and their teams, because if they have trust, if they have that kind of good relationship, Dina, when I say, how are you? They do not feel that you are attacking their space or their bubble, but rather they would be more transparent and they would be okay to say, yes, I need help.
So, in other words, the first step, as far as a leader is concerned, is to ensure that there is trust between the leader and the team. Now, this is something to do with giving all of this, because I know that you have focused so much time and attention here, and I'm sure that your people have benefited from it. Now, have there been times when you felt like you're giving and giving and giving time, energy, attention, focus on all of the people around you, and then are there times when you feel like, oh my gosh, how about me? Hey, I need to pay more attention to myself, or have you already, uh, you know, done some kind of work in that regard so that
Yeah,
you
that's so true.
feel one thing,
I think that you can't I would like to share my favorite quote, that you cannot share from an empty cup. and everything starts from you, because if you are empty, what more can you share to other people, or what more can you give to other people? And to your point, Dina, I came through a point where I also felt like I'm helping too many people, but on my end, I had no one to actually reach out to, because I kept taking care, let's say, of others' needs over mine. And I have to be cognizant of the fact that you cannot solve everyone's problem. All right. It is the individual's motivation to fix themselves, to fix their issues. You can only do as much. So for leaders, I think that it's important for them to create boundaries. It's not giving too much. It's not giving 100%. It's leaving at least 15% for you. It's giving only 85% for others, because you also have to also take care of your own needs, your family, your relationships, your time. And moreover than that, some people will always ask and ask. You've already given your right hand, they want your left hand. And so it's important that you also have your limitations, your boundaries, and you have to be selfish. You have to ensure that you comes first over other people.
Indeed, indeed. So, yeah, because the way, obviously, you have developed a culture in your organization where you really care for each other, and I'm sure that your people feel that you do care for them. So there must be some kind also of reciprocity on their part, that they collaborate well with you, and they cooperate, and they help you in every way they can. So if you don't mind my asking, what is the attrition rate in your own organization?
Oh, in my current organization, Dina, in terms of my measurement, because I've been here only for 7 months, it's only 14%, actually. It's only 14. Now, in my previous organization, that's a different ball game. During the pandemic, we actually had around 45% attrition. Very high, very high, because of course, you've heard of the phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon of the term, quiet quitting, when everybody wanted to quit because during the pandemic they realized that they would rather focus on their dreams because life is short, or simply because they wanted to work from home, and companies were asking people to come back to the offices, and they said no, I'd rather uh I'd rather work at home. And the good thing about my current company, Dina, we are permanently working from home. We
Oh,
actually launched this last January, and the best thing to attract our people and to retain our people is that people are enjoying a work from home permanent, and we provide everything that they need. All they need to do is work from home. That's why I get to enjoy that myself.
oh, that Fabi, that was a surprise to me, and I remember something. A good, very good friend of mine, a former co-trustee of PIMA, revealed something to me. Before the pandemic, where everybody works in the office, they were doing very well. And during the pandemic, they allowed people to work from home. And here, because part of they have a group of companies, and part of their organization is a company focused on data analytics. And they began suspecting something, because the data they were getting were did not seem as accurate as the data they
Mm.
had before. So she had some other people come in from outside, and they analyzed the system, and they investigated. Lo and behold, they found out there were some people supposedly working from home, were not really working. They were doing something else, and they were reckless with a lot of things, and so they were found out. And after the investigation, all of the people who were doing all these other things, not working, they all got fired. So my next question will be, how do you ensure that your people who are supposed to be working from home are really working?
Mhm. That's a good question, Dina, because um, of course, we're scattered all over the Philippines. And so, very challenging for all of us to actually create. Number one, of course, it's a good side that we're all working from home. There's also the negative side of it. And I think the consequence of this is that, in terms of being able to monitor them, in the operations group, we do have a lot of technology that measures their productivity and they could scan. So it's very strict. They could actually check. And me being in HR, I have really encountered some individuals who had to be coached about having long breaks, having not working because we have certain ways of doing things because of technology. We have an AI technology understanding that. But of course, some departments, like in my department in HR, we don't have that. We don't need that because we don't actually talk to customers, but on the other hand, the operation side had to be measured in terms of their productivity, the number of people that they talk to, because we actually are in the healthcare industry. So we have quotas of people that they need to talk to for claims and all that. Um, I would say that aside from technology, um, I would say in my team where I don't have any means except for trust and being able to give clear expectations from the beginning of what I need. I cannot micromanage people, Dina, and I hope also that we have less micromanagers because working from home entails a lot of trust. So it takes two to tango. First, if you're a leader, you need to trust your people and you need to hire the right people because that's the key thing here. If you hire the right people, you won't have any issues when it comes to your dependency of being reliable and all that. But if you already hired the wrong people from the beginning, it's very difficult to let them go, especially if they're already regular employees. And especially in our country, you know for a fact that it's very challenging to let them go because we're very pro-employee. So we have to go through a PIP process, a long due process for that matter. So first and foremost, you have to hire the right people. And then when you have the right people, you know for a fact they're competent, so you don't have to micromanage them, but rather expect them to also do their part to be responsible. On the other hand, you people who are working from home needs to look at this as a blessing that they're working from home. They should not abuse it at all. So that's what I always tell people, that we are lucky. There are two things we are lucky for. First, work from home means that we have work, and second, we have a home. And so don't abuse this power that we have and privilege that we have. Not all companies have this kind of privilege. So make sure that you also do your part because we may not be able to micromanage you, but we entrust you to do deliverables in such manner that's excellent too.
Oh, it must be challenging for you to manage this kind of business where you really have to trust people, and oh my, and how many branches do you have? You mentioned all over Philippines. How many branches do you have?
We have one in Iloilo, Dina, for our provincial, but overall, more or less, we have around almost 600 individuals located in Visayas and mostly in Manila. We wanted to hire more in Manila Dina, because for the fact that our internet connection in Manila is more stable compared to the provinces. Unfortunately, this is the first time I heard when I joined the company that there's a lot of outages happening in different organizations. That's why now the tall order was more to focus on places that had more stable internet so that we won't have to worry about our customer service.
Yes, that's a key because when you said work from home, oh my God, I mean, everybody work from, oh my God, I mean, how? I'm telling you, I'm flabbergasted really because I am just so fortunate that the people that we have, and in fact, before I decided to hire them, I really chose the people who live near our place because
Mm.
it's a short distance. They will have any difficulty coming home, coming to the office. And so, oh my gosh, I felt so blessed with that because now I'm imagining myself in your place. Oh my, I mean, what a challenge, really. What a challenge.
Correct.
Yes.
And
How do
and
how do you gauge? I mean, how do you gauge their because when we started this interview earlier, I presume you have them all over the place there in your office. And when you mentioned that you work from home and they're scattered in the Philippines, I said, what? All the more reason that my level of admiration from you has risen because it's difficult enough to manage people that you can see. Now, how do you manage people you cannot even see? Really, really, as that is something. Now, we are getting nearer and nearer to the conclusion here. So, uh, Fabi, what are certain lessons that you have learned along the way in your being a wellness leader that you can pass on to other leaders globally? Because you know that we have viewers even in America, Europe, and all, because we already invited several speakers from outside of the country as well. So, what would be those for you would be really critical things to know and to practice for them to also become a wellness leader?
all right. So first and foremost, it will always start with you. You cannot be able to lead your team if you as a leader has also some things to actually fix. All right. So it all starts with you. That's my number one tip. In fact, I also have a program specifically for leaders on wellness because a leader does not only know how to take care of their people, they have to also know how to take care of themselves. So I'll go first with that. As a leader, you have to first know how to take care of yourself, learn how to say no, choose
Yeah,
your battles. Choose your battles. Not everything is worth your time. All right. Not everything is worth your anger and temper and your beauty to get to frown upon, right? So choose your battles. Number three, always establish your boundaries. Aside from saying no, if you say, in my case, I only work until a certain time, I really closed my laptop and said, you cannot talk to me. I will talk to you the following days, first thing in the morning. Establish boundaries so you have that balance, especially for those remote workers like me who are working. Sometimes we don't have a boundary as to lunchtime, we're working while eating. That's a big no-no. Consider creating boundaries like if it's mealtime, if it's time for you to teach your daughter for that hour, use the time to take care of your family also. So establish that boundaries. You also have to organize your schedules and time so that you won't be so uh anxious about how will you balance, right? So make sure that you organize the way you are managing your day, your month, your year, and making sure that you are being able to monitor your commitments, and if there are no commitments, then it's also going to put in some recreational and rest in between. Know how to rest if you're a leader. So those are my 5 tips if you're a leader. Second, as a leader, you are definitely responsible also for your team's productivity. But it's not always about the results. And you also have to have that compassionate heart to check on your team members or your individuals or the people who work for you. The simple question asks, how are you feeling today? Did you get enough sleep? How was your, let's say, how was your, personal things that you could ask. You have to build rapport with your team members. So for a leader, you need to establish a good relationship for your people, for them to trust you. You have to have that compassionate heart to understand where they are, all right, to ensure that you can be of help to them and you know exactly what's going on with them. If it's too much work that's affecting them, then maybe it's time to hire additional more people. If this individual hates talking to people, then you cannot put this person in a customer service environment. You need to transfer this individual or make the individual understand that this is not the organization for this person. So a leader needs to have different strokes for different folks. So it's not one time that you have this kind of approach. You have to be able to communicate with them. And in the communication pie, 70%, 78% to be exact, is about listening. It's about knowing to ask the right questions and listening. And another thing I'd like to add, as a leader, you have to make investments on your people, investments in such manner that you can develop them, train them on leadership management courses, succession planning, making sure that if anyone leaves the organization, they are developing high potentials. So there needs to be an investment of talent development programs to ensure that they're not burnout. As a leader, you have to be able to delegate tasks so that the mental well-being of individuals are also taken care of when you are being able to transfer the knowledge and likewise divide the work. So it's divide and conquer all the time. And I think lastly, most of all, it's really working as a team. You cannot have a huge gap between being a leader and this is my team. A team manager should always use the word we and not just also the word I. Um, so that basically, Dina, are my tips. And of course, if you want to take care of your organization's wellness, you have to be sensitive because you don't need to have to budget certain amounts of money for AI to understand what's going on. But even with the way they behave or your attrition rate or certain productivity rates, certain things like that already will tell you that they need help. And as leaders, you're responsible for developing your people and understanding how you could be able to get them out from, or if they get stuck somewhere.
Yes. And thank you so much, Fabi. I can tell that you're speaking from your heart because I did not see you looking at notes. you know, yeah, you can tell, so some people either they really are so what we call feeling less confident than most others also because in your case it was all verbatim that it was coming from inside. So there was no, in other words, you walk your talk. I mean, that's it. You're doing it, so you don't need to have notes with you to prompt you. So I admire that, and I like really the way you have cited all the 5 lessons because it's easy for people to listen to, and then they can they can review it and then they can do it. They can start doing it on their own. So I know, Fabi, how very precious time is for you. You are handling such a challenging job and you're able to soar high with that. I mean, it suits you, by the way, it suits you. And congratulations for all the achievements you have accomplished so far. And I'm sure there's many more in the future. Thank you so much. And uh, let me just remind our viewers that for next week, we are going to be listening to Mark um, Ilardo, who will talk on breakthrough paradigm, and also to remind everybody that especially this is one of the what we call very substantial interviews we have. So if especially if you've learned wisdom and knowledge from this video here, please click like, subscribe, and also in the comment section, leave something like my takeaway for this session is there are many takeaways here, but I'm sure you'll be able to remember several of them. So that would be really, really great for the other viewers also. And again, a reminder to everybody, learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day, everybody. Thank you again, Fabi.
Thank you so much.